Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Eccentric Mind podcast with your host, George Hernandez. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today, we'll be talking about letting go of the person that you are to step into the person that you want to be. The importance of breaking away from yourself to step into yourself, why we need to subtract negative habits before we pile on new habits, how to implement the behaviors you want to persist in that ultimately helps you become the person that you want to be. The other day, I was driving to work and I heard this line in the song Somewhere I Belong by Linkin Park, and Chester Bennington said, "I will never be anything till I break away from me." I think most of the time we have this position that we want to be involved in, and sometimes we think we can drag or pull over the habits and the behaviors that we already have at this moment, while we can pile on the new habits that we want to persist in to become the type of person that we want to be. And we think, well, if I have two different choices, I'm always going to choose the healthier choice, or I'm always going to choose the one that makes me make progress at the end of the day. But most of the time you won't. In order to change, you have to literally get rid of who you are today, so that way you can start stepping into the person that you want to be, right? So understand, you will never be anything until you break away from who you are. You are responsible and cast a vote with every action that you take. Your future self is on the line with what you do today, so be wise with your decisions. Yeah. You have to be more concerned about where you're headed and less concerned about where you've been. So instead of trying to make immediate, gratifying change and kind of holding the position that you've been in before as evidence that you can't make a change in the future, just be more concerned about what you're doing today and where you're headed in the future. What does a choice today look like for your future self tomorrow? Okay, so just kind of think of that. So one of the reasons on how we can start implementing and making change is to understand that we cannot keep our vices. When we're starting to push for an endeavor or want to become some other person, that's because we're so unsatisfied with the person that we are today, we think we can keep our vices. Oh, I want to keep this relationship with this person, or I'm gonna keep working out early in the morning so that way I could just binge eat at the end of the night, or I want to have the ability to smoke weed or take shrooms or something along the lines of that. We think we can keep our vices, but if you think about the person that you want to be, envision the highest, most powerful, most confident version of yourself. Do you think that they are partaking or hanging out with the people that you're hanging out with today? You have to view yourself as a higher sort of self. And do you think that they're still doing these negative vices? Probably not. So, what makes you think that you'll be able to partake in these negative vices as well? So, we cannot keep the vices. Even though they may make us feel comfortable, they may make us feel satisfied and gratified at the end of a long day, ultimately, it's not the choice your higher self would partake in. They would do something that's far more healthier, something that's much more beneficial to their longevity, or beneficial to their wellness, or beneficial to their relationship. So we need to start picking up other habits as well. But first, we need to understand we cannot keep our vices, because you don't grow plants with alcohol even if they're both clear. It just doesn't work that way. I think of it in the sense that your higher self is being held captive by your negative behaviors. Each time you partake in smoking weed, binging, or being with people who don't align with your phase of life, the more you shove that version down inside, making it harder for them to come out. However, as soon as you do stop delaying the process. Now, 2. Probably the most important part is subtraction. I think so many people, like I mentioned before, they think they need to pile on new habits, so that way those new habits, the ones that are far healthier than their current ones, are going to drown out the negative ones. Okay, I'm just going to keep on running and eventually I'm going to stop binge eating. Oh, I'm going to, start lifting weights, and that way I'll stop staying up late at night. But it doesn't work that way. in the last podcast, I spoke about being aware of your negative tendencies or all of your negative traits, ranking them with a positive, a negative, or an equal sign. Now, you need to start being aware of how you feel when you partake in these activities, in the ones that drain you, in the ones that you're currently involved in, right? Because you are not the problem, just the systems that you have in place are the problems, because they're holding you back from being able to make the type of change and becoming the type of person that you want to be. So we need to be very aware of our systems. Not only are we going to rank our habits and our choices, but now we need to be more aware of how we feel when we partake in these choices as well. So if you're hanging out with the friend group and they're drinking all the time, and the only time you see them is when you have 2 beers right in front of you, and then you, after hanging out with them, you don't feel inspired, you feel a little bit more moody, you feel drained, that's a direct sign that you probably shouldn't be hanging out with those individuals anymore, because it's no longer serving you or the person that you want to be. Okay? If you're only smoking weed so you can forget about the world and it takes the edge off, it's not such a big deal, or you don't have to worry about anything other than being in the moment, then chances are you're not happy with the current life that you live in while sober. If you're binging, it's chances that you've not yet identified healthier coping mechanisms, and the pressure and the load that you're carrying is too much for you to handle, that you're slowly breaking apart. So in these cases, adding on new habits like lifting weights or wanting to build a podcast or do a YouTube channel or whatever it may be, this is just going to add more friction and more tension. And in the process, you become more overwhelmed. In the process, it does you more damage than it does good. So it's good that you want to make a difference, make a change into your everyday life. But first, you need to understand you have to subtract in order to start adding in. Okay? Change is a beautiful word for disruption and stripping away the pieces of what you once were to transform yourself into the person you know you can be. And with each action, you take what's not aligned with the future you, and the longer you delay the process of becoming who you rightfully are. It's very similar to renovating a house. When you're renovating a house, you don't start by, bringing in the new furniture. You get rid of the old walls, you tear down the mold, and remove what doesn't serve the vision. Subtraction creates the room for transformation. So understand, it's good that you want to pick up new habits, but the way that you're doing it with your current systems in place, it's not going to work. It's not going to function. It's not going to help you transform into the person that you want to be. So instead, you need to start subtracting, being aware of the things that no longer serve you. So you get rid of those so that way you can start applying new things. Okay? Be very aware of that. It's not you that's the problem, just the systems you have in place holding you back from change. Get rid of the negative systems and you set yourself up for the transformation process. So we can't keep everything we want, even if it benefits us in some way. Usually, you're better off without them. We have to sacrifice things we want today for things we need in the future. What's more important? We have to subtract what's no longer us for us to step into who we want to be. Okay? Now, C would be implement new behaviors. Yeah. So now, okay, we're aware of the things that are no longer serving us. We're getting rid of our vices. We understand we can no longer keep them. And now, okay, I have to subtract the things that are no longer me. I'm aware of them. Okay, I'm getting rid of binging. I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of that. You have likely had goals in the past where you wanted to lose weight, you wanted to start a YouTube channel, or you wanted to start a business. And because you had your negative tendencies in the past, those didn't allow you to make progression in the future, right? Or you weren't able to lose the 20 pounds or make the $10,000 per month, all because you had your negative previous systems. So something has called upon you before, something you were curious about, something you wanted to try. So you stepped up to the plate, but because of your negative systems, you fail and you couldn't make it work. It's like the person who tries to clean their room. You may have been able to clean your room and made it spotless, but then not a day later, it's as messy as it was before. So how many times did you try hitting the gym 5 times a week but couldn't continue weeks later? How many times did you say you would write the book and write for 4 hours a day but couldn't? We implement these new behaviors, but we fail to create any lasting change and find ourselves overwhelmed, exhausted, and unmotivated. But what if we could change that? Actually, we can. So check this out. I've been learning a lot about the brain. The brain's fucking awesome to learn about. So I'm just going to hit you guys with a very simple, non-complex understanding for you to be able to make change, but also make the change less overwhelming, so that way you can persist and you're not as exhausted or as unmotivated in the process of trying to make it happen. Right? I want every single person listening to this to change themselves, to be the person that they know they can be. I just want everyone to live a healthier, happier life, one where they're responsible for their decisions, responsible for their behaviors, responsible for their life choices, and understanding that they are the captains and the pilots of their own plane. And yeah, so this is kind of what I wrote here. So your brain has this department of reward and motivation, right? That's what's called the ventral striatum, right? But dopamine, the way our brains receive dopamine being the deliberate derived pleasure. So you may know dopamine as something you scroll when you go on TikTok and you feel good about it, right? Dopamine isn't solely a application or a exposure. It's not something where we see and we're like, oh, dopamine. Dopamine works by anticipation, pursuit, and prediction. So anticipating is kind of waiting for something to come. Pursuit is seeking for that thing to come, and then prediction is what we believe is going to happen. So our brains are prediction machines. You may not know that, but predicting whether something will work or something won't work. However, our brains also receive the most dopamine before and during something. Okay, stay with me. So in that case, if our brain has a task right in front of it that you guys set, such as gym 6 times a week, eat nothing but whole foods, don't eat out anymore, etc., etc., it's admirable, but your brain doesn't care about your goals. It cares about, predicting future failures or future successes based on the experience of the past or of that like, okay? So if something is, we'll take the example of gymming 6 times a week. If you're trying to gym 6 times a week and you've never had 1 week where you've gone twice a week, your brain is already predicting future failure. As a result, you may try to go to the gym 6 times a week and you may persist for 1 to 3 weeks, but then after that given time, you're going to lose the motivation. And why is that? Because our dopamine levels have deteriorated because our brains are predicting failure. So what's it going to do? It's going to provide us with those gradual feelings of motivation because our brains are already interpreting that it's going to fail based on our previous experience of the past, where we knew we could only go to the gym twice a week, or we haven't even been able to go 2 times a week. How the fuck are we going to go 6 times a week, right? So making it super hard on yourself and waiting for the motivation to come is foolish, okay? So, okay, George, all right. Super hard, gotcha, I won't do so, but I'll make it super easy, because if it's easy, then I'll be able to make progress, no question, right? That way it'll predict I'll succeed, because if something's super hard and it predicted that I'll fail, if I make it super easy, it'll predict I'll succeed, so I'll be able to make the change, right? Very, very well thought of you, but it doesn't work that way either, because if something that is so easy to your brain and your brain is predicting success, as a result, you'll be disengaged and bored and won't persist in that endeavor. So making it super easy on yourself isn't good either. So what do? Well, dopamine, like I said before, comes from anticipation in pursuit of something. What does this tell us? You need something that is in the Goldilocks zone. Something that is just good enough, okay? Something that isn't going to overwhelm you, but a challenge that isn't super easy to accomplish. Now, if you find a task in the Goldilocks zone, your brain will predict uncertainty. This is cool. Therefore, you're more likely to feel engaged in the activity to see it through, because it's not predicting success, nor is it predicting failure. As a result, you will be you will obtain balanced levels of dopamine, which is the feeling of motivation in order to make that reward come to fruition. So pretty much in simple terms, in layman terms, if something is relatively hard and relatively easy, how do I put it? If it's not overwhelming of a task to do, it's not going to burn you out in the pursuit of doing it, but it's also not super easy that you feel rewarded after doing it, that's what you need to do. So it needs to be in the medium. It needs to be just like the Goldilocks soup, right? Just good enough. Okay? The reason why is because we want to feel anticipated. We want to pursue towards something that isn't super easy and isn't super hard, but is uncertain. Because when it's uncertain, our brain doesn't know how to react to it or how to respond to it. And whenever you give the brain something, whenever you give it a question, it needs to respond. So if you try going to the gym 3 times a week, you've probably gone, like I said, 2 times a week, you can probably squeeze out 3. It's not super hard, it's not overwhelming to the point where you're dissatisfied if you don't, and it's also not super easy either. So the brain is kind of curious. The brain is like, can you thread this needle? And likely, if you create a plan Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're more likely to feel anticipation, this need and this hunger for pursuit, and you'll be granted with gradual balanced feelings of motivation and desire, so that way you'll be able to persist in that endeavor and make your goal happen. Okay? So instead of super easy, instead of super hard, find your way in the middle and move towards the actions that pull you or intrigue you. Like I was mentioning in the past, you probably wanted to create a YouTube channel. You wanted to start lifting 3 times out of the week, or you wanted to start doing yoga or hiking or writing or personal training or whatever it was. Go back to the thing that pulled you, right? Before in the past, when you had your negative systems, you wanted to try something. And you did try that thing, but it didn't work. But now that you are aware of your negative systems, you're aware of your vices, you're aware that you need to start subtracting them, and now you're creating a base where you're able to start applying new foundation and new habits and new better principles. You can go back to the thing that you wanted to try in the past and see if it works now. So now that you understand, okay, like I'll go back to yoga, for example. I'll go back to yoga, and instead of going 6 times out of the week, I'll try something that I haven't done before. So I'll go Monday morning, and then I'll go Friday night. And I'll be able to do that 2 times of the week because, in the morning I have time before work, and then after Friday, it's a Friday, so I want to go and I want to relax and I want to enjoy myself and I want to be able to do something that is for my body on Friday right after work, etc., etc. And because it's uncertain, it's something that you've never done or tried in the past, your brain is going to provide you with the dopaminergic sensations so that way you can persist and actually try it. So I hope that came across for you, because honestly, you already know what to do. You just need to try it out. But stop going for the extreme route. Go towards bridging the brain's gap and solving the uncertainty. Okay? So now that we understand what actions we should be taking, we now remove the outcome of our mind and start embodying the person we know we can be. But right now, in the now, what's an action today that builds momentum towards who we want to be tomorrow? This is the boring, unsexy, but highly valuable and deposits the most rewards in the future, because before, your past self hated their everyday existence. So they use entertainment to salve the wound. However, this version of you now loves who they're becoming even in the present moment. Even if the present moment is boring, similar, or the same. Yeah. This is the process, man. This is the process. Now that you kind of understand to take tiny steps, something that's not overwhelmingly hard, but also not super easy, is when you find yourself in the process of change. This is the thing. The more you take actions in the present that are aligned with the person that you want to be, you're not going to get the results right away. But the way I think about it is you're depositing this future reward, because the moment you finally see that person in the mirror, the moment you finally get a glimpse of the six-pack, or you finally get a hit from the bank account balance and you've been paid $10,000 a month, that's when the rewards of today come into, because it takes every action that you take in order to become the type of person that you want to be. So every decision of waking up early, every decision of going to bed early at night so you can get up the next day and get back to it, every decision of stepping up to your journal and writing for 30 minutes, every decision of meditating when you could be scrolling, it's like this process of getting rid of the person that you are today, so that way you can enjoy the deposits that you put in today and receive that reward tomorrow. It's a beautiful thing. It's really a beautiful thing. And I'm in this process right now. I've been in this process for a good period of time, and there's a lot of grief in getting rid of the person that you thought made it. Getting rid of the person that you thought was already good enough to be able to live and just enjoy life, and it doesn't turn out that way. But like I mentioned in the beginning of the pod, which was sometimes it's not a fun process. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's unsexy. Sometimes it looks the same. But that's kind of the paradox of life, I've learned, is that the more exciting, for example, like a wife, I've learned the more exciting a wife seems to be on the outside, that the more anxious you feel on the inside being with them, because they constantly have to be out, they constantly have to, whatever it is, right? They provide that anxiety because they're so entertaining. But if you have a very calm and peaceful wife, I'm not married, but this is just what I've learned, okay? If you have a very peaceful wife that kind of doesn't want to go out to a club or doesn't want to do these sort of things, they may be boring, but it attributes to a much more peaceful, calm life, and that's what we all ultimately want. So yeah, the unsexiness does not mean that it's bad. The unsexiness means that you're stepping into a life that is far more peaceful, far more luxurious, and far more gratifying than entertainment in the present ever will be. So yeah, be aware of your temptations is another thing. We are human beings. We will have temptations arise. Ice cream will present itself back into the freezer. People will respond to messages or start sending you texts that they want you back, or they will, certain areas of environment will want you to stay. These are the temptations that arise, but the more you start resisting, it's casting a vote that you will not burn the bridges of who you know you're meant to be. And the more you continuously step into that person, the more you consistently decline or reject temptation, the more you ultimately become a stronger, refined, reinforced, armor on your body type of character that refuses to let go of the bone and only desires growth moving forward. And that's the evidence you need to stack. I think part of this journey is mostly letting go of the person that you are, so that way you can step into the things that make you who you want to be. The consistency isn't just going to the gym 3 times, but the consistency is also letting go, not accepting, rejecting, not falling victim of the temptations because you know they're satisfying, but you know there's another higher version of yourself that is far more gratifying than any entertainment in the present right now. So yeah, that's all I have to say. And moving away from your previous life, you're slowly stepping towards your new life. And a TLDR, understand you will never be anything until you break away from who you are. You are responsible and cast a vote with every action you take. Your future self is on the line with what you do today. Be wise with your decisions. Subtracting the parts of you that's holding you back from your better self. Subtracting the parts of you that's holding your better self hostage is the only way to grow. No longer be settled on adding new furniture, but removing to start the transformation process of who you want to be. 3. Implement new behaviors, the ones you've tried in the past or the ones that you're called to do now, but avoid the all or nothing mentality. Start in the middle to have the most energy to persist and show up to it without overwhelm. 4. Stay consistent in your new behaviors and make it easy to say yes to those. In doing so, understand the temptations of your previous life will return. Don't surrender. Don't fall back on your word. And if you don't fall back, you grow even stronger than you thought you could have. In moving away from your previous life, you're slowly stepping towards your new life. The results only appear after years, but it's worth it. Hold dear the person that you're becoming, something you tend to, something you care for like a child, and protect it from all the temptations and urges you have to go back to your previous life and keep stepping forward toward the life that you want most. I could not write for some reason, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. One question, one reflection, one journal prompt that I have for you is, what's the step you're taking today towards the future you desire most? And I'll leave you with that one. If you guys enjoyed this, please go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share it to anybody who's also dealing with these challenges or desires to be in a better position for themselves or wants to be a better version of themselves. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate you for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you till the next one. I'll see you.